On Tuesday, the funeral services for Lou Conter, a local hero and the last remaining survivor of the USS Arizona, were held. After Tuesday's service, I had the honor to sit down with Dwight Hansen, co-founder of the You Were Worth It Foundation, which seeks to
always remember our veterans, never forget our active duty, and welcome home all our service members.
Hansen, a retired corporal and veteran of the First Gulf War, came along with his daughter, Trinity, who will be commissioning as a second lieutenant in the Marine Corps in just 2 years. In 2011, she had the opportunity to meet Conter in person, but over the years, the Hansens and the Conters were able to grow close.
And being able to understand that even through all those struggles and sacrifices that he made, he was still able to have a good outlook on life. He was still able to love the people around him and develop new relationships. No matter how much time has passed, no matter how young or how old they were, he was just a loving man through and through.
In 1939, and at just 18 years old, Conter enlisted in the Navy. After boot camp, he was assigned as a quartermaster to the USS Arizona, a ship stationed out of Pearl Harbor. It was halfway through the 4 years that he had signed up for that the Hawaiian Naval Base was, in the words of FDR,
suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan.
On December 7th of 1941, though the U.S. had been preparing for war against the Axis powers in both Europe and Asia, this attack came completely unexpectedly. Yet, from the moment they saw those planes coming towards their ships, Conter said, they knew what was happening. Within minutes, hundreds of Japanese planes would unleash countless bombs on our anchored ships. The Arizona, which was not only anchored but also locked in position by another anchored ship nearby, suffered the brunt of the attack. After one of the Japanese bombs hit, a massive explosion rocked the ship, sending it 30 feet into the air. Within 9 minutes, it would be completely underwater. Conter was one of the lucky 334 survivors to the nearly 1,200 that died on the Arizona that day. Of those 1,200, 900 to this day have not been recovered and remain trapped on the Arizona. Of the nearly 50 ships in port that day, the Arizona alone took nearly half of the casualties in the whole of the attack. It was a dramatic moment in history.
Good or bad, it's a top 5 moment in American history. It just is. It launched us into World War II, what happened that day, and specifically the Arizona. Yamamoto said, "I fear we have awakened a slumbering giant," and that's what they did.
FDR declared war on the Axis powers on the very next day, and suddenly, the U.S. was in the thick of the deadliest war in world history. Following Pearl Harbor, Conter continued his military service. Before he retired in 1967, Conter had served in 3 wars, was shot down twice, saving his fellow downed pilots with his cool-headed leadership. He flew over 200 missions. He helped establish the Navy's first SEER, or Survival, Evasion, Resistance, and Escape programs, and, according to Hansen, Conter also had the opportunity to advise several presidents on military matters during their time in office.
He gave advice to Truman, Eisenhower, Kennedy, and Johnson, all 4 presidents. He went to Vietnam with 3 other gentlemen, and they came back and they recommended to Kennedy that we not escalate in Vietnam, that it was a zero-sum game.
Over the years, the number of living USS Arizona survivors slowly dwindled. When Ken Potts, another survivor, died a year ago, Conter became the last living survivor of the USS Arizona. Though he was unable to attend the 82nd Pearl Harbor celebration last December due to health concerns, he continued to be extremely sharp mentally to his very last days. As the number of remaining survivors of Pearl Harbor slowly shrink, the Hansens particularly want to make sure that even as the years and decades pass, that we, as a nation, will never forget what happened on December 7th of 1941.
Yeah, so I've grown up around these gentlemen, and if I live to be the same age as Lou Conter, that will be someone 164 years after the attack on Pearl Harbor, and I will remember, and I will share their stories.
Though he was an American hero, he never thought so. To him, It was those who gave up their lives that day and gave the ultimate sacrifice that were the true heroes. He was 102 years old. With the KVMR Youth News Corps, this is Graham Gardemeyer.